Welcome to Fashion REBELution. This is our July challenge, and we are doing press-worthy creations. And we're a group of fashion rebels that see upcycling clothes as a solution to the fast fashion habit. And we would love to have you join our club to learn, create, upcycle, and grow with us.
Hi, I'm Maria Venturini with Venturini Courture.
I'm Denise Bolin with So That, and love the environment. I'm with the plastic clothing.
I'm Laurel Moore with Past, Present, Future Stitching.
I'm Ann Willis with And Ever Design.
Hey, my brand is Sueño, which means to dream, and most of my ideas just come to me through daydreaming or just thinking of some other way to use what we already have.
And we also have a new potential designer in our group, Karen Gilbert, who is thinking of joining us. And actually, let's take a moment now, Karen, for you to introduce yourself to the group and just tell them a tiny bit about your business.
Hi, I'm a hand weaver who lives in Pacific City, Oregon. I have a website called theoregonweaver.com, and I weave my fabric, I design the patterns, and I cut and sew, and I traditionally have gone to art fairs to market my work.
Awesome. That's all super cool. And today we have two guests, Casselle Ferere and Briana Nelson. And let's start with Casselle. And he was born and raised in Brooklyn, graduating cum laude from CUNY. He founded Casselle Inc. while still a student, and it's a harbor for all of his creative endeavors, which include photography, writing, designing, as well as filmmaking. And it's where he produced a unique series of silent art films. He is also the founder and editor-in-chief of Reverie Page magazine, which focuses on sustainable fashion and inclusive ideas. Previously working in media and fashion apparel companies, he noticed the lack of representation, not just of groups, but of the ideas that shape us in our everyday decisions. So he's a real advocate for diversity, and we feel incredibly lucky to have him here. We also have Briana Nelson, who attended Central Washington University and University of Hawaii, graduating with a degree in apparel, textiles, and merchandising with minors in business and design. She loves the concept of reuse, redesign, and recycled fashions. Briana has experience in the area of styling, buying, designing, boutique operations, event planning, sales, and customer service, along with 7 years of fashion show experience, which has taken her to places like Hawaii and Australia. She's currently working on designing lingerie to accommodate insulin pumps for type 1 diabetics, as well as using her extensive fashion background to help designers and their brands become their best and truest selves. And Briana is here because we want to have a long and lucrative relationship with her.
I'm excited.
So we're going to be doing press-worthy creations today as our monthly challenge. And before we do that, we want to take a little time getting to know our guests. So I'm just going to open things up. If somebody wants to start.
Someone else is talking. Oh.
Go ahead.
When it comes to branding, I feel like sometimes designers, especially when they're working on different lines that might have a different slant or orientation, have trouble keeping a consistent branding. Do you have any words of advice for us on that?
When it comes to branding, honestly, it's about knowing exactly what you're standing for or what the brand means to you in its original sense. Because even if people interpret it differently, that's not your, thing to kind of manipulate. It's just how they interpret it. So when you're branding, it's like you want to stand on the things that, some sort of pillars that kind of, hold the name up. And that way, when you do start to expand on your creation, essentially all the pieces that fall need to fall back to these three or four, two pillars, or whatever the motto or manifesto of the brand is. For example, even with Page, like for me, it was a balance of trying to speak to someone who reads Vogue, someone who's into GQ, someone who's into like a hype beast and sneaker culture and art. But then at the same time, speak from a place that is, like a more I guess, more conscious person, more ethical person, not living so much on the surface. So it's like, I have to be true to, you know, who I think I am in fashion, and essentially work around that to create like these narratives around sneakers and sustainability and, you know, shopping and, you know, like outfit of the day and these type of things, you know. So it doesn't essentially like give people like a shock as much as it kind of just shows you have range. So yeah, when you're branding, you definitely want to, you know, come up with some pillars to kind of stand on, and then that way you always have like a North Star.
Great. And then one more thing about that. So I feel like people who are into high-end fashion kind of get this idea about sustainability, and it's gotten better over the years, but sustainability or recycled fashion is being low end, like not being high quality. And obviously we're out to prove them wrong, like Maria, who's going to New York Fashion Week. But do you feel like you've kind of come across that at all in your venture to try to focus on sustainability, where you've had people push back and be like, oh, sustainable fashion isn't couture, isn't high end? Have you heard that at all?
You'd run into many different people who have different perspectives on that. It becomes more of I guess, a game of like, who's doing the most innovative thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in that sense, it's like, okay, if you can figure out how to make a couture dress from some sort of material that's organic, natural, mm-hmm. or, you know, recycled or something, and it still has the quality of and the beauty of what we consider to be a high fashion, then I always tell people, if you had a closet full of wool, silk, and cashmere, you probably have the most sustainable, you know, closet there is, because
that
all
is
those
true.
are biodegradable.
Yeah,
so
true. Very much
considered high-end, you know, materials and et cetera.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in with a question for you, Briana. I wonder how, as the event planner side of you, what you learned during this last year of COVID that you feel could be helpful to a group like ours, where we're mostly working online and not necessarily located in the same place.
So with COVID, we did a lot of online, just communication, Zoom calls. It was super important to make sure we were communicating with our teams since we couldn't meet in person, making sure we were open and honest with the direction of where things were going. Also switching to an online show, making sure that we had good photography and videography was super important because people couldn't actually attend shows. So as far as this group goes, I think that would be good to make sure that everyone has like professional photos, like they're clear and crisp, because it translates different from like in person to like a video show.
What is a good resource, an online resource for writing a press release? I mean, we don't expect you to walk us through it, but something that we can look at as like a formatable resource.
I am actually looking at one right now. I can give you the website for it. I researched it the other day. It's startupfashion.com/create-fashion-press-release.
Could you type that in the chat when you get a chance, or copy it into the chat? I'm just a visual person.
Of course, yeah. Do that right now. But it gives you a good breakdown on, you know, certain questions like what inspired your fashion line, when did it begin, who's your target market. It gives you all the good things to think about, and then how to kind of create a visual and a press release for your brand. So really good resource. I'll go ahead and throw that in the chat right now.
And do you feel like that also is important for the designers to support, like by their social media and everything too? Do you encourage your designers to share everything and to do their own campaigns?
Yes. So I definitely encourage designers to promote themselves and the show. More often than not, we will give designers material that we, that we're using, and then they can share on their platforms, because their group of people in their network, it might be different than ours. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to reach as many people as you can.
And do you find that you run into any hurdles with that, where designers maybe feel like it's not their brand, or like how do they marry that type of issue? Obviously they're in the show, so hopefully they want to promote it, but if they have a very strong social media presence that's their own and they don't want to put up other stuff, or I don't know how to explain it. Do you think that they run into branding issues when promoting something that's not necessarily just them?
As far as promoting and branding, that's a communication that should be had between like the fashion show company and the designer. I think that, you know, when promoting, we want to make sure that we're on brand with the designer. Like there shouldn't be a gray area between that. And if there is, then that's something that will come up in communication before you're promoted, or I'd hope that's how I've done it, just to make sure there's no miscommunications, make sure everyone's heard. And if there is an issue, if as a designer, you feel like this isn't on brand for me, this isn't showcasing my line as well, then definitely bring that up to the coordinators and the PR side of things.
How do we prepare for an interview? Like, how do we prepare to talk to someone if they do want to talk to us?
As far as like, what position are you thinking? Just anything like any interview, or as far as a designer pitching to a potential client?
Okay, so I have one coming up. That is based on the fashion show we'll be doing. That's a lot more like ungendered type of clothing. It's an LGBTQIA publication.
For me with interviews, what I really try to do is come up with like a 30-second elevator pitch to kind of understand like where I'm coming from, where my values are, and what I can do to help my client. I think those are super important, and just making it condensed. Because I think I remember you said something earlier on in the call that you maybe elaborate too much, or you're all over the place. I have that issue too. So just making sure that you have your thoughts you have your thoughts centered. You also know what they need, because it's all about empathy in that situation. At least for me, I try to make sure to be like, okay, what can my skills and my planning help them? So that's been a really positive. I've gotten positive feedback for that when I've been in interviews. And learning about the company for sure. Learning about the company for sure is important. So you make sure that you know what they need and what they're about.
I could add a little bit.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, if she is being asked to interview, ask the interviewer what questions they want her to talk to. Then you get those questions and you sit down and you try to make notes or write, type, anything to be prepared to answer their questions. And of course, it's really important to give your contact information, your mission statement, your website, whatever. It's important to that. But I think the most interesting thing for me when I was interviewed recently was that they sent me a list of questions. I probably spent a day trying to address them. Then I did a really hard edit to make it brief, and that helps you refine your idea to make your pitch easy to understand. So I write notes, and then I write again, and then I have it in large font in front of me when I'm doing the interview by Zoom, and then I slowly just let those pages drop to the floor. So it's not like you're reading, but they are notes if you forget what you're supposed to be talking about.
And I heard you guys speaking about, how to get the information around sustainability and the fashion, how to get it promoted, talking about PR. For me, and per conversations I've had with other people in fashion, it's about, taking that same, esque and making it cool, making sustainability something cool, something attractive. And with Paige is like, I'm trying to create that air and kind of, show people that sustainability doesn't have to be this one track as much as it can be, how we go about it as much.
I have a couple questions that were specific to you that I wanted to ask just about Paige Magazine. Like, this is the big thing that you're doing right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Paige, it's been a journey. It's been something that I started, when I kind of wanted to pivot my career, and then also get involved in fashion, but not in the conventional ways of, just style and clothing, but, something with more of a purpose, something that was more conscious about, just the consumption habits of groups, communities, people, you know, in general, and how that attributes to, you know, the balance in the world. And that was for me, kind of the springboard that got Paige, you know, really going and crafted the voice, you know, of the people who we speak to and speak for, essentially. So yeah, Paige is 2 years now. We're on our second issue, coming to the end of our first pre-order run for the second issue. So that link is still available on the site to pre-order.
You can pre-order, and I'll put that link in the show notes on the YouTube video too, so that anybody that picks this up 5 years in the future, they may be wanting to post-order.
Well, I have a post-order link. The pre-order link is more like, well, so how we produce the magazine, we really try to give people a valuable print issue, you know, comparable to other coffee table magazines, but this with information, not just full of more art, but we have art and information. And essentially pre-ordering is how we determine how many we need printed. Therefore, we have no inventory, we have no waste, nothing left over. So, you know, it's truly for those who consider magazines to still be, you know, if you like to turn pages, essentially.
Yeah. And you do a digital version as well, I assume?
I do not do a digital version. The magazine exists in blog form online. The magazine itself, the printed version, is it holds exclusive content to the print issue. So it's really about, you know, almost like and then using the motto of like the newer sneaker culture and streetwear, where things are collectible, but they're also considered art, you know. And in this case, the magazine is something that you want to have on display in your, you know, place where you live, you know, in your office or something that shows just some, you know, some intellect into fashion, and you have good taste, essentially.
How can we send pictures to your magazine to publish? Like we are, you know, we are all designers and stuff, and we do from recycling materials and whatnot. And since that magazine is, you know, supports all that, it will be nice if we can publish our work in there, and you know, good photography and stuff, like editorials or something.
Yeah, so I mean, with the magazine, it's always still a building process. It's still something in the works. We are trying to build to where we can have people that will be point people for like editorial shoots, which is something we do now, but I do it in almost like a minimal capacity. I'm, you know, really working on this by myself most of the time, and having contributors help here and there. I got a proofreader for the final version. So it's all right now. I definitely want to do more sustainable editorials, or even like, you know, what we've done in the past is more like with vintage as well. So yeah, we've definitely had both of those within our magazine for both issues. So the next ones would definitely want to, you know, try to bring in more brands that, you know, reflect the voice and the, you know, the.
So would you give us a link so we can send you pictures of our work, and then you know?
Sounds like the easiest way, Casselle, to like be involved in Page Magazine is just to reach out to you directly with our images and our stories. Is that right?
Yeah, like a lot of what I'm doing is very organic, very you know, you get to talk to the person doing the writing. It's not like a big conglomerate, you know, so it's all about just knowing what, you know, I need. My priorities have to be set. So it's just like from there I can decide, you know, or decipher how to go about, you know, with all the other pieces that are moving.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Didn't you study fashion history?
No, I studied art history. I'm a big art history person.
Okay, but did you knew something about Black people that were written out of, that weren't included in art history? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's just through discovery and through like wanting to learn things, like even learning about fashion in the Caribbean. That's something that will be in this second issue, about how fashion in the Caribbean, through like just the uprising of the slaves, you know, breaking away from slavery, and almost even being allotted to have access to materials, you know, to use to create fashion. What they used to have in the South, it's like, well, they do it more in the Caribbean and I think in Bahamian Islands, it's like Junkunu, and it's like a carnival. But they did it when when slavery was abolished here in the States. There was something that they did, as far as like a community and almost in a carnival sense. But in those pictures, you see sewing and fitting of clothing and, these colorful clothing because it was a celebration. I loved our history, and I like, just kind of connecting the dots between the past and today.
I love that. It's beautiful. Okay, well, thanks again to both Briana and Casselle, and to all our designers that came in today to hear what you guys had to say and contribute ideas for this challenge. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we all make this week. And I hope you'll come back next month when we're doing our back to school challenge, and we'll have guest Nancy Morris Judd from Recycled Runway with us.